You think time heals everything. But time only sharpens a blade when you're planning to use it. On a cold October evening in 2009, the Dawson family's world stopped spinning. It was supposed to be a quiet night in the sleepy town of Milford, Oregon. High school senior Lena Dawson, just 17, had stayed home while her parents went out to a dinner party. Her 14-year-old sister, Eva, had begged to tag along with her older sister's movie night with friends, but Lena had promised they'd watch something together the next day. That day never came. By the time Mr. and Mrs. Dawson returned home at 11:07 p.m., the house was dark. At first, they thought the girls had gone to bed early. But then they found the front door ajar. And the silence inside the house was wrong. Lena was missing. The TV was still warm. A half-eaten bowl of popcorn sat on the coffee table. Eva's cell phone buzzed unanswered on the floor, her last text sent just 20 minutes earlier. Did you hear that? The police arrived within the hour, but the investigation felt slow, almost lazy. There were no signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. No security footage from nearby houses. Lena had simply vanished. 6 days later, her body was found in the woods near Hollow Creek, naked, bruised, and dumped like trash. Cause of death, blunt force trauma to the head. No DNA match. No witnesses. No suspect. No justice. The town mourned her. But no one grieved like Eva. Her sister wasn't just her role model. Lena had been her protector, her best friend, her entire world. And that world had been shattered beyond repair. Despite national media coverage, the leads dried up fast. The killer had covered his tracks well. Too well. Detectives speculated Lena may have known her attacker. Rumors flew. A teacher. A classmate. A neighbor. But there was no evidence. By 2012, the case went cold. And the world moved on. Everyone except Eva. For the next 15 years, Eva Dawson became a ghost in her own life. She was quiet, intense, and fiercely intelligent. She graduated high school 2 years early, studied criminology in college, then earned a law degree specializing in criminal defense. People thought she was trying to make sense of her trauma. But Eva had one purpose. One plan. One obsession. Find Lena's killer. And destroy him. She kept every file, every news article, every witness statement from the original case. She created a database of registered offenders within a 200-mile radius of Milford. She even visited Hollow Creek every October 15th, the day Lena's body was found. Each year, she left a single white rose. But she never cried. Because tears were for people who gave up. It wasn't until the fall of 2023 to 14 years later, that something changed. Eva, now 29 and working in Seattle, received an email from an anonymous sender. The subject line read, "I know who killed your sister." The message was short. It wasn't random. His name is James Fielder. He's hiding in plain sight. Check his past in Milford. He used to run after-school programs. Start with 2008. Attached was a photo, a man in his late 30s, clean-shaven, average build, smiling at a community barbecue. Eva stared at the image for a full 5 minutes. It felt like static in her brain. She ran the name. James Fielder, age 39. Married. 2 kids. Now living in Portland. Former youth counselor. No criminal record. Nothing on the surface. But when she searched through archived staff lists from Milford's high school after-school program in 2008, there he was. He had worked there. And he vanished from town exactly 1 week after Lena's murder. No one had questioned him. Not even once. Eva's hands shook. Her heart didn't. She knew. She knew. And finally, after 15 years, she had a name. The countdown begins. Eva didn't go to the police. She went to Portland. She rented a quiet Airbnb in an old neighborhood. She started watching him, James Fielder. She learned his routines. His job. His gym. His favorite coffee shop. his kids' school. She wasn't planning to hurt his family. That wasn't her style. But he would suffer. But Eva didn't want to kill him. No. She wanted him to confess. And she wanted him to know who made him do it. For weeks, she researched psychological manipulation, studied every interrogation technique ever used. And then, she created a plan that was equal parts brilliant and terrifying. She would break him. Not with violence, but with fear. With the same paralyzing dread Lena must have felt that night in the woods. The first step was a letter. James found it in his mailbox. I remember Hollow Creek. Do you? No signature. Then came the pictures, an old yearbook photo of Lena. A snapshot of the road to Hollow Creek. A copy of the coroner's report. All mailed, one by one. James grew pale. His wife noticed. He started skipping work. Sleeping less. Drinking more. Then Eva escalated. She broke into his garage one night, not to steal, but to rearrange things. Tools misplaced. Tires deflated. A single white rose left on his windshield. By the end of the month, James Fielder thought he was going insane. But that wasn't enough. Eva needed more than fear. She needed the truth. She sent the final message via burner phone. Meet me at Hollow Creek. 11 p.m. October 15th. Come alone. Or I send the files to your wife. She waited in the dark, heart steady, hands cold. And at exactly 11:04 p.m., a car rolled into the clearing. He stepped out. Nervous. Sweating. Looking over his shoulder like a hunted man. He didn't recognize her. Not at first. Eva stepped forward from the shadows. And then, he froze. Do you remember me? She asked. He stared. Lena's little sister, she whispered. And his face cracked open like a mirror hit with a hammer. Tears. Sobs. Then the words she'd waited 15 years to hear. I didn't mean to kill her. And just like that, everything changed. James Fielder stood in the shadows of Hollow Creek, exactly where Lena's broken body had once been found. The trees whispered like ghosts overhead. A low wind blew across the forest floor, and the only light came from Eva's flashlight, fixed directly on his pale, trembling face. I didn't mean to kill her. I swear, I didn't mean it. He collapsed to his knees, shoulders heaving with guilt that had festered for 15 long years. But Eva didn't move. She just stared at him. Then tell me what happened, she said coldly. It was a mistake, he mumbled. She said she'd tell. I was helping at the after-school program. I liked talking to her. Just talking. But then, he broke down, clutching his chest. She said I was a creep. That she'd tell her mom. That I watched her. I panicked. I followed her home that night to apologize. I swear. He looked up, eyes glassy. She was alone. I knocked. She slammed the door. I lost it. I pushed in. I didn't plan it. I just snapped. Eva didn't flinch. And then, she hit her head. On the edge of the fireplace. I didn't mean to. But when I saw the blood, I knew. I knew it was over. He paused, then finished with a whisper. So I took her. Drove her to the creek. I thought if no one saw, I could forget it. I left town the next day. Silence. Cold, bitter silence. For the first time in 15 years, Eva felt something new. Clarity. The face she'd imagined in 100 different nightmares was now sobbing before her, weak, pathetic, cowardly. He wasn't a monster. He was just small. But what do you do when the devil turns out to be a man who cries? Eva had everything she needed. His confession, recorded on the phone in her jacket pocket. A signed witness to a crime that had shattered her life. She could walk into any police department and end this. But as she stared at him, something in her cracked wide open. You left her there. Alone. Like trash. He looked up, ashamed. You don't get to be sorry. She reached into her pocket, and James flinched. But Eva didn't pull out a weapon. She pulled out the white rose she'd brought for Lena. This is hers, she said, voice steady. Not for you. She laid it on the mossy ground and stepped back. I'm going to give you a choice, she said finally. Either I go to the police right now and you spend the rest of your life rotting behind bars. She paused. Or you confess. Publicly. On camera. Every detail. Every second. And then, she locked eyes with him. You end your own story. James froze. You're telling me to. I'm not telling you anything. I'm giving you 2 doors. Choose the one that fits the crime. She tossed him the burner phone. 1 week. Post the video. If you don't, I release what I have. And just like that, she turned and disappeared into the trees. 5 days later, the video appeared on YouTube. Title: I killed Lena Dawson. I deserve to die. In it, James Fielder sat in his garage, face hollow, eyes rimmed with red. No edits. No fancy lighting. Just raw, naked confession. He told the world everything. The obsession. The rage. The moment of violence. The cover-up. He cried. He apologized. And then, at the end, he stared into the lens and said, If you're watching this, I've already taken the only thing I had left to give. The video went viral. 12 million views in 72 hours. Hashtag Justice for Lena trended worldwide. 2 days later, his body was found in the same woods. Hanging. Beneath the trees where he'd left her. Clutched in his hand was a photograph of Lena Dawson. On the back, scrawled in marker. I couldn't outrun the truth. She made me face it. Milford exploded in the aftermath. News vans. Candlelight vigils. Think pieces. Podcasts dissecting every detail of James Fielder's past. Police confirmed his DNA matched samples recovered from Lena's clothing, samples that had been preserved but never matched to anyone in the system. The case was officially closed. 15 years too late. But justice, in its strange, haunting way, had finally come. No one suspected Eva. To the public, she was the grieving sister who quietly watched the world burn around her. She gave no interviews. Attended no vigils. She didn't want fame. Or glory. She had done what the system couldn't. And she'd done it on her own terms. A month later, Eva visited Lena's grave. The wind was cold again, just like the night she was taken. She knelt down and placed another white rose on the soil. It's over now, she whispered. He paid. You can rest. But as she turned to leave, she felt something lift from her chest, a weight she'd carried for more than half her life. Grief doesn't disappear. But vengeance has an expiration date. She walked back to her car. Calm. Steady. Finally free. A life built on loss now had space for something more. Eva Dawson eventually moved to a quiet town in Colorado. She changed her name. She never practiced law again. But once a year, she would return to Hollow Creek. She'd leave 2 white roses now. One for Lena. And one for the girl she used to be, before vengeance became her only language. Because when justice sleeps, somebody has to wake it up.